Sectional charts. What does it all mean? And how do you operate in the national airspace? Lucky for you, that's what we're going to talk about today on our Pilot in Command series as we go forward trying to get these items checked off on our PC checklist. One in particular that you're going to have to do is you're going to have to plan a VFR cross-country, and you are going to have to display your ability to plan a flight into a demanding airspace, which is either a Class Charlie or a Class Bravo, and you're going to be evaluated on how you're able to get into that airspace and how you operate once you get into that airspace. So I would assume this is probably an item that you have to get checked off at every unit. It certainly is at mine. Whenever I was doing my Pilot in Command checklist and I did my VFR cross-country evaluation, I flew into the Las Vegas Class Bravo. But for the purposes of this video, I'm going to walk you guys through how I would plan to get into a Class Bravo and how I would do my planning leading up to that. That way you guys walk away with a better understanding if you guys are working on this, or even if you're a flight school student just trying to wrap your head around VFR planning altogether. Hopefully you guys are going to be able to walk away from this video with a better understanding. So let's jump right into it. Alright guys, so for today's video we are going to be using ForeFlight as our planning software. It doesn't matter what planning software you use. I really like ForeFlight. That being said, always put it in the AMPS computer, because the AMPS computer is what is compatible with your aircraft. So you can put in your accurate temperature, wind corrections that are relevant for that day, and you can play with the weights and everything of your aircraft because it knows how to calculate that. And you can also put it on your PIMCA card and put it in your aircraft and get accurate fuel calculations en route to your destination. So no matter what software you use, just understand that it is important to transfer that plan into AMPS. Now, we are going to start with my planning technique. You don't have to use this technique. This is just my technique. If you like it, keep it. If you don't like it, you don't have to use it. So let's pull up ForeFlight and get started. Just bear with me because I'm not used to using ForeFlight on a desktop, but I am today, so you guys can see what I'm doing. So we're going to start at KFRY right here. I already got it pulled up. I'm going to put that in my route, and then I'm going to take KMCI, which is the airport we are flying into, and I'm going to put that in the route as well. I always start with putting my departure and destination airport in there, and then I take the sectional, and I typically pick out my spots on the sectional. Now, why do I do that? The reason I tend to do that is because it allows me to stay away from airspaces I don't want to encroach on, and it also allows me to get a good situational awareness of my obstruction clearances and route selection. So taking off out of KFRY, I've picked this waypoint right here. It's not a waypoint, but it will be our waypoint, our first waypoint. And the reason I selected that is because you can tell it keeps us out of the Manhattan Class Delta, and we can kind of handrail this interstate right here. And this is going to be really easy to make out from the air because it is a four-way intersection. This is Interstate 70, and there's going to be a little bit of an urban buildup right here, and I'll show you guys on the aerial map, which is another part of the planning process that I use as well, but I always start with the sectional. So we got our first one in. Let's pick out a good second one, which right here, I like this one right here because we see a bridge. You can easily make out waterways and bridges from the air, so I really like that one. I'm going to add that one. The next one, I'm going to use this lake right here. That one looks good. And it's going to keep us out of the Topeka class deltas. Now, keep in mind, if you wanted to fly through these class deltas and this little echo shelf right here, you totally could. If you wanted to, you could fly over them. You can fly through them. But the reason why I would not do that is because in order to fly through this class delta, I'd have to talk to K-top tower or K-fo tower. And I'd prefer not to do that just because I'm already going to be up with flight following. It'd just be more back and forth on the radios. So I want to let you guys know that you could do that. I just prefer not to do that. You could also fly over them and not have to talk to anybody. But we have plenty of fuel to make it to KMCI, and I do not see the purpose of doing any of those two things. So we're going to take the scenic route, and we're going to do our own route out here. So we're going to drag that to this intersection right here. That looks like a good one. For some reason, this is not wanting to cooperate with me. That's going to be a good intersection for us right there. So we're going to add that one to our route, and then this big lake right here with this ridge going over it, there couldn't be really a better terrain feature to use. So we're going to use that one right there. Boom. Now we're going to come over here, and looky there. We are getting close to the class Bravo. Now notice these little green flags right here. ForeFlight recently added these. So the flag with the circle around it is a VFR checkpoint. The ones without a flag is a VFR waypoint. Now these checkpoints can be used around class Bravo as kind of a situational awareness tool for the class Bravo that you're talking to. So whenever I'm going into this class Bravo, I'm already going to be up with flight following, as you guys should be too on any cross country. It's just way easier. They give you traffic advisories and airspace advisories as well. So if you're already up with flight following, you can let them know that you're intending on entering this class Bravo around this big lake. So that gives you plenty of reaction time, as well as you're already going to be up with Kansas City approach right here. So at this waterway, I'd let them know that you are intending on entering the class Bravo, and you can use this first VFR checkpoint to let them know where you're at. Now, you could also do it the old way, the old school way, and give them distance and direction from a known point, which would be K-top right here, but you could also give them distance and direction from this VFR checkpoint right here. Now, keep in mind, you do have to be cleared into the class Bravo. So when you let them know that you have intentions on entering this class Bravo, they will give you your own squawk code, and they have to let you know that you are cleared into the class Bravo. If you're not cleared in, you're not allowed in, you will be getting a telephone number from the tower once you get on ground there, if you make it that far. So for the purpose of this plan, I'm going to leave it here because KMCI does not have a fly chart, and like I said before, I will go over fly charts with you guys later in the video so you guys know what those are. But KMCI does not have a fly chart for their class Bravo airspace. Now, why am I not putting other VFR reporting points or checkpoints on here? And the reason that is because I don't know what they're going to do once I make it to this. They may clear me direct. They may give me vectors to go here. They may give me vectors to go here. It just really depends on what's going on in their airspace. But I put this first one just to give them some type of navigational reference on where I actually am. So far, this is a solid plan for VFR cross country. Now that we have identified some good points that we can identify from the air, and we know we are going to be clear of all of the airspace that we don't intend on entering, what we're going to do here is we're going to go to our layers, and we are going to go to the aerial. Now, why are we doing this? We've looked at the sectional, and we know, hey, this is the route that we want that's going to keep us clear of the airspace we don't intend on going into, right? Now we're going to come back and make sure the waypoints that we selected match with what we think they are going to do. Remember, for our first waypoint, we think that we're going to be able to easily identify this from the sky. Now, this is when you want to start creating your time distance heading card. Now, your time distance heading card, or commonly referred to as the TDH card, it is where you write in your waypoints, you give a description and time, distance, and magnetic course. Now, the AMPS computer will give you a TDH card after you put in the route. You can use that. I often do. You could also make your custom one. The main thing you want to make sure you do on that TDH card is to put a description of each waypoint. So for this one, my description would be four-way intersection, because it is a four-way intersection, gas station. And the reason I keep it brief is because you don't have a whole lot of space on that TDH card, and you also don't have a whole lot of time to read your description. But if I read four-way intersection gas station, that's going to re-jog my memory and be like, oh yeah, I remember what that looked like. So even though you can't make out the gas station right here, if you can recall earlier, it did pop up with a little icon. I don't know why it's not doing that anymore, but this is very easy to make out from the air. Now we're going to go to our second one. We're going to go to our second one here. I might have better luck if I zoom out a little bit. And for this one, the description would be river, bridge, and I'd probably write NS for north-south. The bridge is running north and south, right? That's going to be super easy to pick out. So that matches with what we thought. So we're going up here. Remember, this one was a lake. That's very easy to spot. One, it's a lake, but two, it's got this just flat spot in the south of it. So I'd put lake, FLT for flat, and then S for south for the description. And then coming up here, this one is near a road. And let's zoom in a little bit to get some more information on this. So this one's near a road. It's also near a pond. You're going to be able to make that out probably from the air. This picture was probably taken a while back. You got to always remember satellite images are typically dated. But you're still going to be able to make this out because you have a massive road. You have a pond right here. You also have a pond right here. You also have a pond right here. And you have like this J-hook driveway to this house. So if I were you, I'd write 3 pond J, and that would re-jog my memory of, oh, I'm going to see 3 ponds and a J-hook intersection. I'm coming down. That's just how my brain works. I don't know why. I'm going to come down. We're going to have to zoom out. We're going to have to zoom out. Boom! You can't miss this. This is a massive lake. Look at this lake. You'd have to be blind to miss this. Massive lake with a massive bridge running across it. You can't pick a better waypoint than this for a VFR cross country. You really can't. So this is ideal. Now, if I can remember correctly, yep, this is our last waypoint until we enter that first VFR checkpoint for the Class Bravo. So the VFR checkpoint for the Class Bravo, that's going to be actually in your database. If you can see my mouse, it's going to be under Victor Papa Mike Charlie Lima. You put that in your fans, or if you put that in your FMS, that will pop up. And boom, you take all instructions from your controlling agency to get in KCMI. Now that we have reviewed the sectional, and we have for airspace, and we have also reviewed the satellite imagery, we're going to go back to our layer and we're going to put back that sectional again. Now, why are we putting back this sectional again? We haven't really talked about altitude yet, right? So right off the bat, we are traveling to the east, right? We're traveling to the east. So right off the bat, I know I got to be at an odd altitude. If we were traveling west, so if we were coming from KMCI back to KFRI, we'd have to be at an even altitude. But for the purposes of this route, we're going to be at an odd one. So keep that in mind. You can reference the AIM or the .5 if you want to read more about that. Now, we already know what I just said about altitudes. Now, the other thing is how high of those odd altitudes do we have to be? The thing that I'm going to reference in this big, massive square called a quadrant is this 26 right here. This is a MEF, a MEF, whatever you want to call it. It is a maximum elevation feature. So if you are at 2600 MSL, that means you are going to be at least 100 feet over the highest obstacle in this quadrant right here. And if I were a betting man, I would be betting on this one, because this one over here starts in the next one. And whoops, I zoomed in too much. Or maybe it is referencing that one. Yeah. No, this is referencing that one. So the MEF for each of these you want to pay attention to. So this one's 2700 right here, and it's referencing that one. So 2600, 2700, when I come through here, these are all lower than the 2700s. And pretty much the highest one that I can see is that 2700 right there. Now, that means if we're at if we have an altitude selection of 2700, we are going to be clear of all obstacles in the quadrants that we are traveling through. Now, keep in mind, that's a quadrant. That doesn't even mean you're necessarily passing over these obstacles. That's just referencing the quadrant. And then you also want to see your route. So like our route right here, it passes near this 1619 feature. So we want to keep that in mind as well. Now, if you were using the iPad version of ForeFlight, you'd be able to go to your profile view and make sure it will show you how far above the highest obstacle in your path. I have my corridor, my planning corridor set for 8 nautical miles on my ForeFlight and my iPad. That's not something, at least I've been able to find out how to do in the desktop version, but it is something you can do on the iPad, and it's what I do. So based off of the MEFs that we've been able to see, with 2700 being the highest, my altitude selection is going to be 3500 for this route. And the reason why is we're traveling east, so we're at a odd number, 3500, because that is a VFR altitude. You want to be at the 500 mark, so 25, 35, 45, 55 for this one, 35, and it keeps us above that 27 MEF. So that is a very conservative approach for altitude selection. Now, I think we've drilled down on that pretty well. Now, most of you guys are probably wondering, like, we have GPS. Why are we so concerned with these descriptions in our TDH cards, right? You guys are probably wondering that. And my answer to that is because anybody can follow a magenta line, right? It's not hard. People do it in cars. They want to go to Walmart and they get on the road and they drive to Walmart. A good pilot can operate without a GPS. So that comes down to the ATM task of pilotage and dead reckoning. So when you're doing these VFR cross countries, most PCs are going to want to see you display the aeronautical knowledge of navigating visually off of reference that you can make out in the cockpit. So, like our route here, we got the bridges, we got the rivers, we got the lakes, and we're going to have a TDH card that describes all of that. So in the event they made us do this route with the ECAS page pulled up, we can't use any GPS, we are going to be A-OK because we have a good solid plan and we know how to point out all of our waypoints from the air. Not saying that's going to be the situation you're in, but you're taking it a step above. Like, not only do you know how to use the system, that's easy, right? We can all do that. But can you also revert back to the old school way, the Vietnam era way where those dudes were just flying in jungles, making out terrain features in the distance and navigating that way. That's the type of pilot you want to be. That's why I'm kind of trying to focus in on having a good TDH card and picking good references that you guys can clearly make out from the sky. Now, part 2. Let's go into part 2. So we got our route pretty hammered out. For the part 2 portion of our plan, we're going to familiarize ourselves with our arrival and departure airports. Now, you can, be an overachiever and print these out, but at minimum, you want to definitely have at least a digital copy of these in your kneeboard packet or easily accessible in your iPad. Now, let's go to KCMI, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Now, let's pull up the airport. I don't want to do that. Let's see here. Okay, perfect. See this right here? Let's go to procedures. Airport diagram. Let's pull up the airport diagram. Whoa. Now let's zoom out. Now, this is what you want to have easily accessible on your kneeboard packet, right? And the reason I say that is because you don't want to fly into KCMI and they tell you to go to, you land on runway 1 left and they're like, hey, exit Alpha 8. And you're like, holy shit, and you go right past Alpha 8 to Alpha 6, they're going to be like, dude, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, right? You're a professional aviator. You need to have this readily available, and you need to familiarize yourself with it. Notice these are all alphas, so if you're on 1 left or 19 right, all of these are going to be alpha. Same with this crosswind runway right here. All of these look like they're Charlie. So that's what I'm talking about. I'd have these readily available, and I would also kind of look them over. I mean, you don't have to make flashcards with them or anything like that, but definitely be familiar with them for sure and have them readily available. Now, notice I didn't bring up Fort Riley. Why? Because it's my backyard. I know it like the back of my hand. Now, if you're departing from an airport that you don't know very well, you're going to do the same thing I just described. You're going to go and make sure you have the airport diagram for those airports as well. This one's pretty straightforward, and like I said, I know it very well. So, boom. That's something that you're definitely going to do. Familiarize yourself with the airports you're going to. Now, the other thing is you're going to need to write down all of your frequencies. Now, I'm not going to sit here and go through all of the frequencies that we're going to need for this because that would make this video an hour long. But I always love to jot down all of the frequencies on my knee board in an organized way and write them out. So, for instance, I just got done telling you guys that I knew Fort Riley really well. So I know all the presets for these, but I would say if I didn't know them very well, I would have definitely the ATIS written down, CTAF. Yeah, I'd have that one written down. And I'd have the tower and ground written down. Yep, Marshall Ground right here. Marshall Tower, and I'd probably have my centers written down. Now, if you want to know what center you need to have written down, you can press the squiggly line button. Let's see if it comes up. It's not coming up, but you can also find it on the sectional as well. I would have all of my centers written down as you're going through here. Now, when you get to this area right here, not that you're going to talk to KTOP, but I would have their CTAF frequency written down, and I'd also have their tower written down just in case. You never know. You might have to divert there or something, or want to monitor it as you're flying by it. It's not a bad idea. It doesn't cost you anything to write it down. And then as you get in here, you're going to want all of the frequencies for KMCI written down. Now, why write it down, right? It's all in ForeFlight because you're going to be very prepared, and I'd much rather reference my knee board as they're telling me what to freak change to, and I just look down and I do a little check mark by it, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then I don't even have to write anything down. I just read back what's already written down on my knee board, which is pretty cool. It makes it easy. And planning, like Eisenhower once said, a plan is worthless, but planning is everything. That's kind of the method we're going for here. The other thing I want to talk to you guys about, so we just hit frequencies. You guys got that. I'm confident you guys got that. Now, let's reference the AFDs, or the Airport Facility Directory. Now, I already know KFRI. We're going to focus on KMCI here, right? So, ForeFlight's got a great feature. You can go down in the Info tab, and I can pull up, let's see, FD, come on, where are you at? Not seeing it. Well, I am not seeing it in here. Man, ForeFlight's a real disappointment on the desktop feature. Anyways, in your iPad, you can go under the info section. You can go under the info section of the airport that you're going to, and you can scroll down to the Airport Facility Directory, also commonly referred to as the chart supplement. Now, it's going to give you some great information. I'll actually take a picture of it and I'll add it in there just so you guys know what the heck I'm talking about. But it gives you some great information. It's going to tell you certain things like, not that you have to worry about this at KMCI, but runway weight limitations. It can tell you the surface of the runway. It can tell you information on gas, tower hours. It can tell you restrictions on where to park. For instance, for KMCI, it has notes about not parking in the FedEx parking or on the FedEx apron, not parking on the postal apron. Obviously, you'll be up with ground, but it builds your situational awareness before you even go in there on what to expect. So you always want to reference the chart supplement before flying in there on your departing airport and your arrival airport. Now, I did tell you guys that we'd go over the flight charts. One other thing before I forget, you're going to also request a -1 weather brief from your SWO team. Now, you typically want to do this well in advance before your flight. And when I say well in advance, at least 24 to 48 hours ahead of time. Just be like, hey, at this time on this date, I want a -1. You'll give them your aircraft type, your altitude you're going to fly at, your departure aerodrome, Zulu time, and your arrival aerodrome, Zulu time, and they'll give you a weather report for that day. I typically want to receive my -1 about an hour, maybe 2 hours before takeoff, because that's going to give you the most up-to-date weather report. And you're going to want that for a VFR cross-country flight. And then, like always, review the NOTAMs prior to the flight. Now, as promised, I told you guys I would show you the fly charts. So let's go into the documents. Now, keep in mind, I said that KMCI does not have a fly chart, but most Class Bravos do. So we're going to go under FAA, and in the FAA tab, you're going to go down to fly charts. Boom. And look at all these fly charts. So we got Atlanta, we got Baltimore, we got Charlotte, we got all of them. So let's say we want to go into Las Vegas. The Las Vegas fly chart, it gives you a good detailed depiction of their Class Bravo airspace. And if you zoom in here, and in this little section right here, they even have a VFR arrival. This is a VFR arrival. It tells you how to enter their Class Bravo. Now, I've already put this into my iPad, and this is if you were approaching from the east. If you're approaching from the west, you'd kind of just have to request, a certain VFR waypoint and then let them know your intentions. But they have a arrival from the east. And just to give you guys an idea, it tells you to cross this gypsum mine. It gives you the identifier for it. And it gives you an altitude. And then it tells you proceed to Nellis Air Force Base. It gives you the identifier. And then it just walks you in through their airspace. Now, when you enter a Class Bravo, especially a big one like the Vegas Class Bravo, they are going to ask you, are you familiar with the Vegas Class Bravo? And when you say yes, you're basically telling them you are familiar with this fly chart right here. But yeah, the fly charts, if you are going to fly into a Class Bravo, reference the fly chart. In the case of KMCI, for the one we built today, they don't have a fly chart, but most Class Bravos do. So reference it. It's a good resource. And then that is pretty much going to do it. I really hope you guys took something away from this video. And I'll keep the videos coming. If you feel like you got something from this video and you really liked it, please give me a like and subscribe. That really helps the channel out, and we really appreciate it. So I look forward to keeping the content coming, and thank you guys for all of the support you guys have given me up to this point. All right, until next time.